welcome to the open agenda of the future Napier Committee. I'd just like to note for the record that I'm vacating the chair and would like to pass over to Deputy Chair Councillor Tapani.
Ngā mihi nui. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. Welcome everyone. So this has been a very long morning and I'm really speaking to myself here. If we could keep our kōrero brief so that we can keep on task as we have another hour of commitments to meet today. Let's start off. Do we have any apologies? I've received apologies for Councillor Wright. Any others?
Moved.
Seconder?
Sorry, Councillor Second.
Oh, and Councillor Simpson. Thank you.
Simpson.
And do we have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Crystal. All right. Conflicts of interest? No conflicts. Public forum? None. No one's presenting today. Any announcements by the Mayor? Kāpai. Announcements by the Chair? None. Any?
Minor matters.
Yeah, I was just about to get there. Any minor matters not on the agenda? Councillor Bogue.
Civic awards.
Civic awards. Any others? Lovely. Cool bananas. Announcements by management? No. We just would acknowledge that the Chief Executive was called away for personal reasons, which is why she can't be here today. Confirmation of minutes.
Moved. Seconded.
Seconded. Move. I heard Councillor Bogue. Seconded by Her Worship Mayor Wise. All for? Against?
Aye.
Aye.
Kāpai. Moving at pace here, people. All right. We've done our confirmation of minutes. We've got agenda items number 1. Welcome. Here we go. Ben Ward. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe, Ben. Take us away.
Good afternoon. A bit of background on this was the reason for the policy change in our dangerous, affected and unsanitary buildings. So this was a legislative-driven amendment to our council dangerous, earthquake-prone and unsanitary building policy. So the big change, the easy way to sort of put it, is that the government has taken back the earthquake-prone part out of this policy and sort of running it in-house now. So they hold pretty much all the information in regards to all our earthquake-prone building in-house. So the sort of the background summary is the Building Earthquake-Prone Building Amendments Act 2016 required council to amend its dangerous earthquake-prone building and sanitary policy by removing the reference earthquake-prone buildings out. So we no longer hold that in our policy anymore. So the council policy was amended accordingly in line with legislation on the 5th of June 2018. However, in an administrative oversight, the need for council to formally approve and adopt the amended policy as a decision of council was overlooked. So that was a bit of a boo-boo on our side, unfortunately. So we did adopt the policy, but obviously we never brought it to council to be approved.
For you, Mr. Chair.
Questions?
Kia ora, Ben, and welcome to your first council meeting. Well done. Just a quick question that was passed to me by Councillor Simpson before he left, and he was seeking clarification that we're calling it our dangerous, affected and unsanitary buildings, but it does cover things like dams and the like, and should the policy be called structures?
Well, it's in line with the legislation, so at the end of the day, the structure part sort of falls underneath that definition anyway, so I don't know whether the structure part needs to be in there because it is covered underneath the legislative requirements.
Perfect. I'm sure Councillor Simpson will appreciate your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. Any further questions? Councillor Price.
Just a quick one. So do you still get it? Can you get into those records that they are held?
Yeah, so it's online now, so they hold the register. So it's actually an online thing
So
you can jump into and see, like I say, which buildings are earthquake prone and all the information that goes with that.
Yes.
Any further questions from?
I have just a question. I wondered why this was in public excluded.
It's not.
It's not. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for that answer. Well done to you. It's good to see the unity and nice test there, Councillor Bogue. Well done.
I know why you thought that.
Any further questions?
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Lovely. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Crystal. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Decision of council.
It's a decision of council, isn't it?
I'll move that.
I'll second the decision to council.
Kāpai. Thank you. So that was moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Deputy Mayor Brosnan. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much for bringing it to my attention, Councillor Price. Gary, item number 2, liability management policy review. No mai haere mai.
Kia ora koutou. All right, thanks for having me here. With this policy, it was last reviewed in May 2020, just to ensure that there was provision in there for council to join the local government funding agency. So this current review is somewhat urgent, and it's arisen due to work being done on the financial statement for a long-term plan, which that will be presented on the 8th of April, hence the rush to get this done. Before we go any further, I've got to highlight, apologise for, and correct a glaring error in the report itself. So I'd just like to draw your attention to the officer's recommendations, point A, where it says adopt an increase in borrowing limits in liquidity to external debt. It should actually be borrowing limits in net external debt as a percentage of total income from 100% to 230%. That also appears in the issues as well. So where it says that limit of liquidity plus committed, that should actually be borrowing limit for debt as a percentage of total income of 100%. So it's cosmetic. In the other stuff, it's correct. So that's just because I had to rush this through. So I'm sorry about that, and I understand they've already put the amendment up there. If anybody'd like to check it out.
I also understand there are further changes in 2.3.
That's right, yes. So down in the issues where it starts, there's that first sentence, liability, it should read, the liability management policy currently has a borrowing limit for debt as a percentage of total income of 100%. Full stop. And then the rest of it's all correct. So sorry about that. The reason that needed to be increased is just because it was identified as part of the work on the long-term plan, where they see in 2027-28 that may reach 174%. So increasing it to 230% just provides a bit of an additional ceiling for us. And also I had a meeting with the LGFA yesterday, and with their policies from 2026, they're looking at having it at a maximum of 280%. So we've still got plenty of headroom there. At the moment, it's currently quite a bit higher. In addition to that, reading through, we've got a maturity profile for borrowing as well as fixed rate maturity profiles. At the moment, they're both requirements within the policy, and the recommendation is to change those into guides. So whilst we'd still like to follow it, it's better to have a bit more flexibility there. Because when it comes to borrowing, a prudent person will also consider current and future interest rates, matching borrowing against the purpose of the loan, and also when the loan can reasonably be repaid. And so if we stick strictly to those requirements, then it may not be beneficial to council. So having some additional flexibility there does actually make sense. And also within the recommendations, just a note that a decision of council is required just based on the time pressures we're currently under. Are there any questions?
Is that the right wording for A? Adopt an increase in borrowing limits.
Talked about them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have of net external debt? As a percentage?
As a percentage, sorry, of. So, percentage of total income from 100 to 230%. So, yep, in net external debt as a percentage of total income from 100% to 230%.
Councillor Brown. Simpson.
Just on that topic, on the page 29, in the borrowing limits, it says net external debt as a percentage of total income will not exceed 100%. But is that not saying that we're going to increase it from 100% to 230?
230. That's correct. That needs to be all corrected.
Okay.
Yep.
So what was the clarity we were looking for there, Councillor Brown?
That there's an error on page 29 under the borrowing limits point 2. Instead of saying 100%, it should say 230.
Thank you. Any further questions? Did you get that, Jane? If there are no further questions, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Crown and Councillor Taylor. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Sorry, I should be giving you guys an opportunity to discuss the motion, really. I'm skipping steps here. Do you want me to go backwards? Do the mover and the seconder wish to speak?
Just briefly, very
Kapai.
briefly. Thank you. Through the chair, it's the view of this council that we are an enabling council, so it's good for us to get our ducks in a row when it comes to preparing and coming to a decision on things like this so that we can enable some of the decisions that we are going to be facing in the very near future. So thank you for the work. Great to have the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
Nothing from you, Councillor Taylor? Wonderful. This is also a decision of council, so we've got a mover and a seconder for A, B and C.
I'll move the decision.
And Councillor Taylor will move the decision, seconded by Councillor Crown. All in favour?
Aye.
Ngā mihi nui against? Ka pai. Item number 3.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Gary.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Didn't want to talk to
Resource consent activity. Luke, no mahaere mai ihoa.
Through you, Mr Chair, just declaring a conflict on this item.
Ka pai.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe.
Just by way of resource consenting activity update, I'd like to advise that recently we have seen a large increase in the number of applications that have been received by the resource consenting team in comparison to the same time last year. We have gone from 27 last year to 41 this year, which is quite encouraging to see. I'll now move on to some of the more complex and larger scale developments that we've got applications for. One being 48 Gloucester Street, Taradale, which is the PGA Arena expansion. Since writing this report, we have received a second application for that, which is for the arena itself and the permanent car parking arrangement. We're also currently assessing the temporary car park and also the earthworks required for the building platform. I will talk about these a bit further on in more detail. 107 Ford Road, Onikawa, is a multi-use commercial development which is attached to Eurocity. They're proposing a stage 1 a courier depot with ancillary office space, Eurocity Marine, and stage 2 a vehicle showroom. This application is also currently under assessment, with further information being requested from the applicant. 94 Monroe Street in Napier is a proposed commercial building for office and retailing purposes, and also some ancillary signage. 195 to 197 Tennyson Street is a proposed car dealership and workshop, which is also currently under assessment. We also have a proposed multi-unit development at 9 Turner Place, Onikawa, for 17 industrial units and 17 lot subdivision associated with that. Now, to speak in more detail about the PGA expansion, I only have detailed the proposed temporary car park and the earthworks associated with the building pad in this report, given the second application for the actual arena didn't come in until after we finalised this report. So the initial enabling works proposed comprises 1,830 cubic metres of work for the building platform expansion and 242 temporary car parking spaces. The temporary car parking area will require the installation of 48 lights, which are to be erected on 40 poles at a height of 7.6 metres. So these are obviously issues that we're currently working through with the applicant around effects on adjoining property owners. The applicant has indicated that they anticipate the car parking area to be utilised for a period of between 18 and 24 months whilst those works have been undertaken for the expansion. Today, a further information request was issued under Section 92 of the Act to the applicant for the second component of the proposal, which is the arena and permanent car parking arrangement. I will bring that detail back to the next committee meeting for you. With respect to the proposal at 107 Ford Road at Onikawa for the multi-use commercial development, stage 1 obviously the courier depot and ancillary office space, and Eurocity Marine, and also stage 2 the vehicle showroom. There's obviously, as a result of this proposal, there are some existing businesses that are going to be disrupted, which is why they've proposed 2 ancillary office space areas to the back of the development for the purpose of relocating those existing companies. We've obviously issued a Section 92 request for further information to the applicant, and they're currently working through that. Moving on to 94 Monroe Street, the proposed commercial building, office space and retailing. The development proposes the construction of a 2-level commercial building for retail and office activities and ancillary car parking. The site is within the fringe commercial zone, and the proposed structure will occupy the site in its entirety. Parking is provided on site, albeit with a departure from the requirements of the district plan, and that is something that they're currently addressing. The applicant, that is. The matter is currently being considered as part of the overall assessment. Moving on to 195 to 197 Tennyson Street, Napier South, the proposed car dealership and workshop, which is where I believe Tony's Tyres is currently located. They're proposing a new vehicle workshop for Kia Motors. The plans submitted with the application detail the reuse of the existing structure on site and upgrading of the yard area for displaying of new vehicles. There will be sufficient parking provided on the site for customers. And as the applicants indicated, generally staff utilise vehicles that are for sale, so they won't require their own parking space. A detailed signage within the proposed application, which council are generally satisfied with, and the proposed hours of operation Monday to Friday 8 till 5:30 p.m. and Saturday 9 till 4 p.m. Moving on to 9 Turner Place at Onikawa, the multi-unit industrial development that's proposed is for, 16 units are proposed, not 17 as I indicated earlier. The specific use of these we have not yet discussed with the applicant. Obviously we'll need to see additional applications should they not be a permitted use under the district plan. The applicant also proposes that the subject site be subdivided into 17 lots with common property included over the access and circulation car parking areas. That's my update. I'd invite any questions.
Councillor Bogue.
Thank you. Whereabouts is 94 Monroe Street, please?
The house or the building?
No, it's a... Sorry?
Down by Swan Street,
Yes, it is, yeah.
down by the furniture place.
Oh,
Yes, so it's
where
on the
there used to be
right
old
down
It's,
below.
houses.
it's right on the corner, yes.
Okay. Back of Briscoe's, really?
You're next door to say the old Safe Mart there, the mattress place.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Fort Max.
Excellent. Very well then, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McGrath moving, seconded by Councillor Mawson. Any questions? Comments? No? And all in favour, please?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Thank you very much. Debbie Hill. No more item I, Debbie. Item number 4 on the agenda, 120-minute parking review.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So the paper I'm presenting today is to seek council approval to change paid parking, the P120 2-hour time limit restrictions to all-day paid parking. Basically where it's very low occupancy, and it's really to provide more flexibility for the users. So I have identified 5 areas to change into P120 time limits. Browning Street between Maroon Parade and Hastings Street, Clive Square West, which is a full area from Tennyson Street to Dickens Street, Station Street, the lowest Station Street from Monroe up to the crossing by the police station. Dickens Street, which is the north side right at the lower, that's sort of on the edge of the Clive Square. And Hastings Street, which is from the Vortier Street basically down to Rebel Sports area. Okay. Back in October, we met with the Napier Business Association, and at the same time we were looking at this review. So they fully support our proposal. So what we had been finding is that right in the inner city of the hub, we have got commuters and retailer owners and staff are basically shuffling their cars every 2 hours. So if we can move these people into all-day paid parking, because they're happy to pay, move those people further out, we can basically, we really want our shoppers and our visitors to come in, straight into town, easy, find a car park and have an enjoyable experience. Okay. And also, this also basically ties in with our Napier parking strategy as well, whereas basically right in the inner city of the city you have your P10s, and then you move out to your paid parking, P120s, all-day parking, and then you've got your time limits, and then you've got your free parking. So with the parking strategy, so what we've got to do is we've got to review this constantly. The city is growing, population's increasing, more commuters are coming into town. So it's basically just managing our assets to the best of our ability. Right. So what I've got out there at the moment, so we've got our parking officers out there, and they're basically regulating, changing behaviour, education, and they're also observing what is being utilised and what's not being utilised. So this proposal is basically, if you agree to it, the way that we would probably go about educating, like a campaign or a program, is first we've got the Napier Business Association on our page, and they'll get the information out to the retailers and their staff. We can use our comms department. We can do a newspaper item. We can use Facebook. Our website page, at the present time we're updating our parking website page, and there's a lot of changes there, and we're trying to make it more friendlier and basically direct people where to park. Also at the same time, we've got our customer services people, they can help us promote this through calls coming in, or people popping in and asking about parking. You know, where can I park for like 3 hours or whatever. And also we have also got our officers out there that can also educate and promote this as well. Is there any questions?
Yep. Comments from Richard first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add that one of the things that's top of Council's mind, and certainly that the Chief Executive Officer has been promoting with us, is the kind of trying to keep us a little bit safer in our town and in the CBD. And one of the benefits of this proposal is that it brings in all-day parking a little bit closer for those retailers that have to walk to their car at quite a vulnerable time, particularly as daylight saving changes. And so there's it might be small, but it's probably quite significant not to, to be able to shorten that distance. And we're working also on trying to provide some decent lighted trails to the main car parking areas as well. So I just wanted to add that point.
Madam Mayor, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Debbie, can you tell me currently the parking along Monroe Street, what is the time limit on that currently?
The time limit is not just on one side, so it's the east side, and we've got P120 time limits. So it basically starts from Lower Dickens Street, and then it goes right through to Edward Street, just on one side.
On one side.
And the rest is free parking.
And is there any reason in particular why that hasn't been included as a recommendation to increase to all-day paid parking?
Sorry, we just haven't really looked at, we haven't identified that area. It is quite full.
Right.
up further, but maybe next time we can look at that.
Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, just through the chair. For me, we could be moving the problem from one street to another. Did we consult with any of the businesses along, Clive Square, Browning Street, or any of those places before we proposed this?
The only one that we consulted was with the Napier Business Association, it's just through them.
Yeah. Which these outcomes don't affect. It only gives a benefit for them. But for businesses, say, along Clive Square, such as the TAB, the auction, there's a hairdressers there, Pilates class. Did we consult with these people who have, who need short-term parking outside their buildings as they've got people coming and going? Did we consult with them at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Perhaps I can come in there. I think that what we've used really is the data to drive these changes. So it's working on what is currently happening and the occupancy kind of levels to drive that. We haven't treated it in the past with these kind of changes. We haven't generally gone on a kind of what do you think type approach with the public as such. It's been more a kind of a moving it constantly to address things as they come up. But if you feel that we should be doing that prior to making those changes, we could do that.
I absolutely do. So I went and spoke to a few this morning, and I just said, has anyone been through? And I said, and I did ask, what effect it would have. How does your business operate? And I think if I went just to a small area, it may pay for us to go a little bit further afield.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Can I just ask a question? Are those businesses outside the change, are they members of the Napier Business Association? Because they have a distinct area, don't they?
Yes, I'm not quite sure actually.
I don't think it extends that far.
I think it's just outside of the area, actually.
Excuse me.
So, Councillor Crystal. Thank you.
Following on from Councillor McGrath, I know down there on Clive Square, potentially people are looking at putting a restaurant there. So that, if you're going to have lunches and stuff, you kind of want parking outside, I would think. So what provision is there to change it if this happens and then we want to bring back shorter term parking? My question, because the businesses are changing in that area.
So, based on my assessment, because I see that this is linked directly to the work that was done on the pedestrian and traffic movements that we conducted about 2 years ago, and based on the information that Heather's provided, there's an ongoing assessment both at a staff level and at a community engagement level. If we add Councillor McGrath's desire to make sure we're checking with individual impacted parties, then what I'm seeing actually is an evolving strategy around how we develop solutions around our parking. So I would expect that our staff will continue to work in those spaces, but I'll look to Richard to correct me.
Perhaps I could add to that. The difficulty you've got here is that you want to be agile, and there is clearly a need where the shuffling kind of thing that goes on we need to try and do better there, and trying to please everybody, and it's a very difficult balance. But in terms of being able to make further changes, we can do that by coming back to the table all the time, and that's the idea behind the parking strategy, is that it is alive and that it does respond to changes in businesses and those sorts of things, albeit sometimes they choose to locate in a place that is very difficult for us to suddenly do a spot parking kind of provision, because we obviously have to enforce things. So it's not easy to kind of to work our way through being agile on the one hand and very consultative and conclusive on every decision on the other.
Councillor Crystal, are you happy with that response? Did you get the answer you were looking for?
Yeah, but I guess when I look at that, you know, like the Mayor was saying, you've got places on Monroe Street with there's no businesses that they front onto. They're fronting onto the back of Countdown and to the back of the Catholic Church, whereas there's actually are businesses along those streets that people will want to park outside. And my other question for the one up on Hastings Street is, this is where our library and stuff is going to go, so then what happens then? Do we undo it? Oh no, we're talking down the track.
Through the chair, that's where it has to be, you know, parking of all things has to be live. You've got to change all the time, otherwise you do get, you know, a dated product that does not actually meet the needs of the community. You'll never get it perfect, that's the other thing. So I think we try as hard as we can to keep it as relevant to the situation that we've got, and it's really, I guess, coming back to this table every time that we need to make, you know, changes, and to keep doing that, and having the courage to basically to keep doing that. There's no simple way of you know, otherwise you're just going to go in and have a status quo situation, which is probably doesn't meet the needs of the parking strategy, but your community.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
My apologies. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation, and I'm happy if I have a seconder to speak to why I support the recommendations as they stand. I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Crown.
Thank you. So I support the recommendations from the officers for a couple of reasons. One, I think there's a misconception of what this change means. It's not that we are introducing all-day parking outside of these businesses. It's that if a car wanted to park all day, they could pay up to 8 hours worth of parking. And as we see in other parts of our city, it'll be used by casual parkers like they do now. They'll go in, pay for their hour, go out. But if a car wanted to go for a full day, it would be able to. And we need that flexibility. We've heard often from our community that they need more than 2 hours in town often as well, and this is just another, if you're having a long lunch at that same restaurant, you might want more than 2 hours as well, so it allows that flexibility. The other reason I support it is because they have identified through the parking strategy areas that are currently underutilised. We know parking is short in our city, and using underutilised spaces more efficiently is absolutely what our parking strategy should be about. So that's why I support the recommendations.
Thank you. Now, before I come to you, Councillor Crown, did you want to reserve your right to speak? Kāpai. Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against the motion. I thought this council was pretty keen on consultation and engagement. There has been zero consultation and engagement with affected parties here. The officer did speak about the status or things needing to change, but when you set up a business and you have customers coming in, the last thing you want is changes around you that will mean your customers can't park outside your shop or your location. You want a moving feast, fair for all? Do we have any all-day parks down the main street of town or in Tennyson Street to share the effect that it's going to have? I noticed that we didn't extend it all the way up to the Marine Parade outside our own building. But one of the cafes that a lot of our staff use is Poppy's across the road, and they have people coming in to pick up coffees and taking off. If those parks are full, like I see down Monroe Street, and everyone, to me, the smart thing would be to move as close as you can get to town so you don't have to walk. I just don't see it as being fair on our current retailers who are directly outside these parks.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Are there any other comments from any other councillors? Oh, sorry. Yes, Your Worship.
I'm going to speak in support of the motion, but I guess I just want to say that this actually just flags that what we all know is that we have an issue with parking, and we're trying to obviously be agile and make changes to accommodate our community as best we can, but it doesn't solve the overarching issue that ultimately I don't believe we have enough parking in our CBD, either for our shoppers and people that are going in and dining, etc., or for our workers that are looking for that longer term parking. So I'm happy for this motion to go ahead. I do have some reservations that have been shared with us by Councillor McGrath and Councillor Crystal, so I would like that reassurance that if we do end up having some issues, we have the ability to look at it again. But I guess I would also just like to flag that I think we do still need to continue having that bigger conversation about what we can do with regards to solving the long-term issue of parking in our CBD.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Thank you. Any other comments? Ka pai. Councillor Crown.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm speaking in support of this. Whilst I acknowledge the comments from Councillor McGrath, I do know that Napier City Business Inc. have received a large number of indirect, informal or direct informal engagement with their members, and that is why they are so dedicated and motivated to work with Council and to advocate on behalf of their members around parking. It's one of those instances where we've kind of got to live in the now. If we have the ability to make changes in the future, that's the flexibility we're looking for, but we're trying to deal with an issue as it is right now. And I think that Mr Monica raises a really significant, pertinent issue around safety. A lot of the feedback that I get personally from people that work in the CBD, and mostly female, is that they feel really unsafe as soon as they are having to go back to their cars in the dark. It is a theme that is consistent with the pre-engagement that we've had for our long-term plan as well, that people consider safety to be a high priority. So I see this as a really good sort of start and middle ground for us in trying to satisfy and deal with issues that we're facing right now. So that's why I'm speaking in support.
Ka pai. Thank you very much. Councillor Bogue.
I'd like to speak against this, particularly in relation to the situation behind Clive Square. First of all, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a safety issue for people to park cars there and walk there at night time, because it's not a particularly safe part of town. I also am concerned with that area because it's right next to the bus stop, and a lot of people want to stop and pick up their relatives or drop somebody off, and if those car parks are locked up all day, it's going to be very difficult. And finally, I go down there most Saturdays to the market, and it's a struggle often to find a park there anyway. But if they're going to be city workers spending, putting their cars there all day or large parts of the day, it's going to be very hard for people who are wanting to shop at that market. So just on the strength of that particular area, I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Price.
Just a question. City Inc., do they cover, I wasn't sure what answer we got, the area that Councillor Bogue's talking about. Is that covered by City Inc.?
No, it's
No,
outside.
it's not.
So it's not even in their own area.
All right. Ka pai. Any further?
But their members are working, they would be some of the people that would be using that parking because they are working in the CBD.
Yeah. So, unless there are any further questions, I look forward to seeing how this policy will roll out and what feedback we'll get back from our staff so that we can continually evolve our parking solutions.
Could I just add something to my comment, because I don't want to diss the whole thing, but just that particular area I would like to have removed, or to be have more careful study on that particular area that I mentioned, the back of Clive Square, when it comes back to us for final debate. Is that possible?
Yes, I think that would be possible, and I think how many days have we got in between? We've probably got a few to do maybe a little bit of engagement during that time.
Okay.
Through the chair, sorry, could I just make a comment to that as well? And I think doing a little bit of engagement would be great, but just in response, Councillor Bogue, to your concerns, I think you would find that if people didn't feel safe parking there and walking back there at night time, they wouldn't, and then that it would mean they would automatically become available for shorter term parking anyway. So that's why that wouldn't be a concern to me. People won't park there all day if they don't feel safe going back there to collect their cars at the end of the day. So then they will be empty to be used by other people.
Ka pai. Yep. No, I don't think we've got that indication just yet. Fine. No further questions from councillors? Then we have a mover in Deputy Mayor Brosnan and a seconder in Councillor Crown. All in favour, please.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Now,
2 against. Would you like that noted?
has to be.
Ka pai. That nonetheless makes the motion in favour with numbers, so that passes. Ngā mihi nunu kia koutou. That is the last item on the public agenda.
Minor matter.
Can I have a mover
Oh,
to...
minor matters.
Oh, minor matters. Thank you, Councillor Bogue.
I've been watching and waiting.
Councillor Bogue, minor matters.
Right, thank you very much, Mr Chairperson. My minor matter is the fact that nominations are now open for civic awards. Once a year we give people in the community an opportunity to nominate people who have been involved in what we call a high level of voluntary service to the community. And I'm just putting the word out here for the council and the community. Could you please start looking around your networks for people who stand out in this way? Well, they often don't stand out because they're working, behind the scenes. But what we've done this year is it used to be quite prohibitive, actually, nominating somebody for a civic award. You had to come up with all sorts of letters of support or anything. But this year we've tried to simplify it by making it a 2-step process. So first of all, if people have somebody they want to nominate, all you need is two nominators and the name of the person. Of course, you don't tell them anything that they're being nominated, and all we're asking for at this stage is for you to make a few bullet points on why this person would be eligible for this particular award. So it doesn't have to be really long and involved. And then the committee will have a look at the nominations that come in and seek further information from anybody who they think it would be a good idea to further explore for this award. So the deadline is the 9th of April, and I'm really hoping that there'll be lots of response. The form is actually on the council website, and I'm sure when you look around your communities and your networks, you'll probably see 1 or 2 people that you might like to, for the committee to consider. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bogue. So that brings us to the end. Can I have a mover to move us into public excluded? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. Seconded by Councillor Mawson. That's us.
All those in favour? Aye.
Oh, sorry, all in favour? Aye. Thank you. Against? Cool.